Hey everyone, welcome to the Fireside Chat number 43 on Crushing Classical, redefining a thriving classical music career. I'm Tracy Friedlander, and today Eileen and I discuss a huge revelation I had recently. We had a great talk right around New Year's that blew me away, and a whole new way of looking at things came out of that talk. Now, I always do New Year's resolutions, but I'm at a new place in my life where I want to create more for the new year than changing a bad habit or going to the gym more. My main question for myself: how do I become successful at everything I want this year? How do I effectively reach my goals and strive for really great new goals? How do I make everything that I'm doing now 10 times better than what it is now? I believe that I got my answer through this conversation that Eileen and I had, and this is where we start on the Fireside Chat today. I'm certain you'll be able to relate, and you will find that what I realized maps onto your life quite easily. Before we start, a couple of quick things. Please join the conversation at facebook.com/crushingclassical, as well as Crushing Classical on Instagram. If you love what you see, it would mean so much to us if you would comment on posts and share them with your classical musician friends and colleagues. Also, if you love these podcasts, please take a moment to review Crushing Classical on iTunes. Having more reviews helps more musicians to find our podcast, and we really appreciate it. I'd also like to mention something really exciting that just released. A tuner app idea that I came up with is now a reality. Drone Tuner, currently available on iOS for iPhone and iPad, has all the instruments to select from when you tune to a drone. Who doesn't hate tuning to that awful mechanical tone from traditional tuners? Now, not only can you have the tune from a real sound of your own instrument or any instrument you want to tune with, the visual technology in this tuner app is so amazing. It has super fast reaction time and is very similar to the strobe tuners from back in the day. People are already in love with this app. Check out our website, dronetunerapp.com, to see video tutorials on how the app works, or check out the videos in the App Store. Get yours today at the iTunes App Store. The link is in the bio. I'd also like to thank Fix Music for being a sponsor of Crushing Classical Podcast. Have you checked out Fix yet for your sheet music purchases? I'm so excited to have them as a sponsor. It's such a great site. Fixmusic.com is your online resource for affordable, high-quality sheet music. Fix also offers unique buying options for individuals, teachers, and schools. Whether you have a large private studio or you run a music program, Fix has a solution for you. Contact them through their website for more information. Fix offers priority and priority express shipping at super affordable rates, meaning they do not pad their shipping rates to make money. If you need sheet music fast, Fix will expedite it to you as inexpensively as possible. Also, just for Crushing Classical listeners, check the show notes for a link to get 10% off your order. Let's get started. Hey, Eileen, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. All right, so just situating here. Yeah, good. I've got the right mic selected and everything.
That's important. That's important. Otherwise, we're going to be able to hear one side of the conversation and
Oh my
not the
God.
other.
I know. I quadruple checked since that one that one time I screwed up. Oh, that
Oh,
was,
right. We lost a hot seat over that one.
yeah. Oh my gosh.
That
And
was a
now
bummer.
I'm so OCD about it. Like I want to have the ScreenFlow recording monitor on the page so I can see
Hmm.
the whole time. I can stare at it so I don't go, uh-oh.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
yeah, because you can see the talking. You can
Yeah,
see the,
exactly.
yep,
Exactly.
yep.
So
That makes sense.
today I want to talk about something really that I'm really actually fired up about, like big time, because we've been talking a little bit about, like in our challenges, we've been talking about it, the idea of when you were a boss, like in your career, because it's something that I marvel at actually, like how back in the day, and I would say this all the time, like it's something I noticed even way before Crushing Classical, way before anything. I remembered that, like, gee, what happened to that Tracy who didn't give a shit that Schumann's Adagio and Allegro was hard as a motherfucker,
Hmm.
and I didn't have, you know, a really solid high B flat, yet there were plenty of them in the piece. And I didn't care. And I'm like, I'm going to play this because it's
Yep,
awesome,
yep.
and luckily I had a teacher who didn't ever try to control what I wanted to do, you know? And I would
Hmm.
see music in his messy apartment. And I'd be like, I want to try that piece. I want to try this piece. And he would just let me. And so I would just take it home and do it. And then eventually, over time, and certain teachers, I was like not doing those things. Like, and I would look back on time, like when I was in college, look back on high school and go, God, I can't believe I thought I could play that piece. Like, what was I thinking? But I still did
Mm-hmm.
it. And I still took it to solo and ensemble the day after my birthday, where I'd gone out and like drank, you know, Seagram's Golden Coolers or whatever. And
Right.
then I showed up to solo, and I hope my mom's not listening. Um,
Uh,
and then I went to solo and ensemble contest, and I played that after drinking like wine coolers the night before. You know?
wow, I didn't even know that story.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think your mom's going to listen to this.
No, she won't.
Uh-uh.
But I remember all my life I marveled about this fact. Like what happened to that cocky little horn player from high school who was like, I can go take Chicago Youth Symphony. I can go to
Mm-hmm.
Europe as a 15-year-old. I can go to
Yep.
Japan with Youth Symphony. I can do this. I can do that. You know, all these things. And gradually over time, it slips away. And so, and then you get to a certain point where you just don't even remember it anymore, which is the saddest part. And
Yep.
then I think actually you and I got back in touch when I didn't really remember the boss me at all, like
Mm-hmm.
at all.
Yeah, like boss was gone.
Boss was in hibernation. Boss was
Mm-hmm.
not there, and um, and I and I've worked with you over the course of 2 years to the point where and it like literally took that long for me to
Mm-hmm.
work through all my shit, to unpack all the baggage and all this stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
and it's funny because I'm making it sound like it's a lot of times when it does get unpacked, it's like it's the realization is like, oh, that's it, like you make it
Mm-hmm.
to be like, oh, I have so much to do, and it's really not. It's just that there's a lot of it. So each time you open it up, and the more you do it, the easier it gets too. I've noticed, like even when
Mm-hmm.
like the other
Yep.
day you busted me for something, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing that thing again. I want to stop doing that right now.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
It's not such a big deal anymore.
Yeah, it's not. So,
Mm-hmm.
so over that time that, I got to the point where I was bringing back boss, and, and towards the end of 2017, I was like, okay, things are starting to look up. I started crushing classical. I've got my contempo ensemble started, and that really came out of the Envision course, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I, and then you and I had a conversation on January 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
And at first it made me shit my pants. God, have I sworn? Have I sworn enough yet on the first 5 minutes of this
That's okay.
pod?
We'll just mark it explicit. All good.
I know. Well, yesterday I was recording and I was like, I mark them all as explicit anyway, just in case we slipped. And I'm like, well, then I should swear. So
Yeah. You just gave yourself a free pass.
yeah, I know. If I'm not swearing, I'm wasting an explicit marking.
Uh,
So you and I got on the phone. I don't even remember exactly why. It was the day after New Year's and we were catching up because you'd been really busy packing up and getting ready to go. So we
yeah,
hadn't
getting
talked
ready
as
to go.
much and it was the holidays and stuff. And you said to me, so this year, do you want to lead some challenges and courses? And I was like, um, well,
Yeah,
well,
I'll never forget your response. It was just very underwhelming. Is really the best word I can use. It was just very quiet, I guess. It was very non-committal. That's what I remember. It was very non-committal. You're like, I guess so.
I'm like, fuck. How am I going to
Right.
learn how to do that? And then I was immediately like, well, you've had way more, you've had like a decade of training that I haven't had. Like, I've learned from you for 2 years. How am I going to do that? Like, I don't know. I don't think so. And then what ended up happening after that was a 2.5 hour long conversation that, it's funny because sometimes we'll talk and we think we're jumping on the phone for a half hour and then like literally 2.5 hours goes by.
Yep.
Um,
That's happened quite a bit, actually.
yeah.
Hmm.
That's why we started deciding to record our podcast.
Right, exactly. I mean, seriously, yeah, that's actually where how the firesides came to be. Was would have these epic long conversations, and we're like, we should be recording this,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, but do you remember what I said to you about, because of course you were non-committal, but you were like, yeah, I could do that. You were non-committal about it. But do you remember because you said, okay, so you've had all this training and I haven't had all this training. And I said, it's actually not my training that sets me apart, that makes it possible for me to lead challenges or courses. It's actually not it.
And then I was like, well, what do you
Something
mean?
else. hmm
And
Something else.
yeah, and so there, I don't remember exactly how you said it, but I had a little brain explosion. Um, do you remember exactly how you put it?
I don't, but I remember something like, I said it's because I think I said it's because I have a platform, I have a philosophy, and
Uh-huh.
that's where I'm leading from. Like
Right.
how I know how to put a challenge together is because I have a philosophy. How I know how to put a course together is because I have a particular. It's a combination of opinions, um, experience, knowledge, but really at the core of it is I have a philosophy about how things need to be done, should be done, and how they work, and
Yes.
that's why I do it. Yep.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
So I think I said some version of that, but not exactly that.
Exactly. So I sort of had a through this conversation and other stuff you said, I had a big aha moment. Like I realized I've been you notice, we talk about Facebook, learning from Facebook a lot on here, and there's certain people I follow and they come out and they make posts and they make videos or whatever they do. And you go and you watch it and you're like, dang, I know exactly what I just heard. In a 1 minute video, they so concisely nailed something. They hit the nail on the head. And I realized that that's what I wanted, essentially. Like, what I really wanted was to really know and really solidify a philosophy. And what I realized that was being that boss that I figured that I lost so long ago.
hmm
Even though I was 16 and I probably couldn't have told you like what my philosophy was if that was, put to me like that when I was 16,
hmm
but I knew what I wanted.
Yep.
And so that's a form of having a philosophy.
It is. It's definitely part of it.
Yeah.
No question, that's part of it.
Yeah. And so there was that. And then I started thinking about all the things I worry about and all the things I'm unsure about and all the things that I question and all the things. The biggest one for me was all the stuff I worry about, honestly, because there's a lot of stuff I worry about. Like in crushing classical and the future of it, in creating contempo, and what am I going to do next, and how that's going to look, and what if I screw up, and what if I waited too long and didn't do, like any version of what if. And
hmm
all of it vanished when I realized if I was approaching it from boss, from I know what I want and I know where I stand,
hmm
then all of it goes away.
Yep. If you know where you stand, you can answer any question.
Yeah. And so that's yes. And so that's what you asked me. You said, what could you talk about for 2 hours?
Oh, yeah, I did that little
Remember?
exercise. Yeah, I told you about that exercise that we do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so when you
So
put it like that, yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
well, yeah, because we were talking about, what's that guy's name? The clothing guy
Oh,
that's in
yes,
your,
yes, 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 yes.
what's his first name? Kevin?
Wait, are you talking
Brian. Brian. It's Brian, right?
Brian the clothing guy?
Brian,
Yes.
clothing guy. Remember? And I said I used Brian as an example because Brian came up. This guy Brian who does really fine men's clothes. I think
Yes, here
in
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 Raleigh.
Rock.
And he
Yeah,
has a
and
tailor shop, and it started as a tailor shop and now it's like a custom suit. You can get custom suits and they'll come to your office and take your measurements so you don't even have to leave. And yeah, he's really growing this cool business model here.
yeah, it's pretty awesome. And so, but we were talking about it because she said, what Tracy said was, this guy, this is someone who absolutely has a philosophy. Like he's very clear
Mm-hmm.
who he is and what his business is and what he does.
Yeah.
And I said, so let's use Brian as an example. If I called Brian up today and I said to him, hey Brian, we've got we need you to come and speak today, this afternoon.
Hmm.
We need to come and we need you to. It's in 3 or 4 hours. We need you to come. We had a speaker, and we don't any longer. That speaker bailed or they got sick or whatever. So we need you to come, and we need you to do a 2-hour talk, and it's to business people. And since you're being thrown in the last minute, we want you to come, but we want you to talk about how something along the lines of how you dress and present yourself, how it impacts you in business and your relationships and all that sort of thing. I mean, I made it up. It was a made up scenario.
Yeah.
And I said, if I called Brian today, he would say, okay, no problem. And he wouldn't even have to prepare. Like he'd
Hmm.
probably write an outline. He'd probably figure out what he wanted to do for the 2 hours,
Hmm.
but he would show up there and he would just talk. Boom. Like
Yep.
he wouldn't even have to, he wouldn't need a script. He doesn't need to prepare nothing. Zero.
Right.
That's someone who has a philosophy. And if you can't do that, then you don't have one.
Right. And without a
Period.
doubt, I knew Brian could do it because every time I've had a conversation with him, he is so like clear about
Hmm.
what he's doing, what he wants to do, and why he's doing it. He's like, men don't dress well. Look at these examples of people who have clothes that are too big on them. Like tailoring is where it's at. Clothing off the rack is not right. It doesn't fit you. Da da da. Like he could just talk for hours. He's
Yep.
like, I'm out here to change this. This needs to change, and he's doing
Mhm.
something about it. It's great.
Yep. Exactly. But that was, I mean, that was essentially the talk on January 2nd was, Tracy. I mean, that's sort of Tracy's quest this year is to get really clear on what hers is, what
Yeah.
her philosophy is,
Yeah, it was such a great conversation to have the day after New Year's Day because it's like, wow, New Year's resolution all encompassed like
Hmm.
self philosophy. And so it's funny because I realized as we were talking, like I have philosophies on certain one of the things I have a big philosophy on personally is like natural health stuff because I did a ton of research on it to the point where I felt so educated that I realized that it was a long time coming to get to this point, but it was so much more than just learning about the natural health stuff, but it was learning it to a point where I was so clear on how I felt about it that it wouldn't matter if someone else came in and gave me their opinion about it. Or even if they had a bunch of facts that they deemed true about certain things and why I was possibly wrong. Like it had to be so strong that I couldn't get pushed off my stand about it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yep.
And so that's why I wouldn't give up on the studying of it. Like I remember people would say to me, "Geez, like are you going to read another article about something wrong with what, the environment like that you have to stop doing?" Like I remember this happened right after I discovered that like canned food had BPA plastic chemical in it. And
Hmm.
people like, don't, you can't not, I remember sharing it. Don't, you can only buy this brand because the other ones have BPA and this is bad. Da, 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 da. And friends would go, just get off it. Who cares? Like, get to a point where you're not going to keep worrying yourself over. I'm like, I'm not actually worried. I'm just informing myself. And like, over time, I would see people try and this is what people do too. This is why philosophy is so important because people will
Hmm.
peck away at you.
Yep.
It's almost like they don't realize what they're doing, but they don't want you
They'll
to have
shoot
a philosophy.
bullets. Yeah, they'll
Yeah,
shoot bullets into. Yep, they will.
they
Yep.
try like the Dickens to make it so that you don't have that. It's so
Yep.
weird. I mean, you can see it on Facebook if you follow someone who has a philosophy, read the comments,
Yep.
you know?
Totally. Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Yep.
so it's like people want to take that down. And I experienced it with health. Oh, are you sure? Because I read da, 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 da. I'm like, well, you know what? I don't care what you read because this is what I know.
Yep.
And you're not going to change my mind. So, and I finally got to
Right.
that point where I could be like that, but it took a long time because I realized that there were two parts of it. It was the educating myself, like with just knowledge about it, and
Hmm.
then moving it into this is my philosophy about it that I'm not going to change. And so that's where I want to get with like everything else. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so
Totally.
that's where the boss thing came in because I think after that conversation, I was scrolling Facebook and I ended up clicking on a video because this is another thing that we've talked about lots of times about Facebook and following breadcrumbs. like you like to
Mhm.
put. I love that term because like
Mhm.
so somebody that I follow was like he'd actually posted, "Who do you follow on Facebook?" And then his friends posted who they follow. And so I'm like, "Okay, there might be some people I could follow on here who say some good stuff." And I like to follow good people because there might be things I can adapt to the music world that makes sense and in a new way. And so it's educational, it's useful. And I found this person and she was like some kind of a businesswoman. I don't know if she was a coach herself or not. I couldn't tell, but because I ended up unfollowing her because of the way she talked. But that's
Yeah.
another part. But she said in there, she said, well, you know, blah blah blah, and I hired this coach, and then blah blah blah, she hired this other coach. And here's this woman who's like in her feed, she's like, I make, $2 million a year or whatever. And she's like, and I hired this coach and da da da. And it wasn't even so much what she was talking about with the coaches. That part of the story wasn't interesting to me. But because of the conversation I had with you the other day, I was like, hold the phone. She hired a coach. She used the term hire.
Mhm.
She hires her, she pays her. And so in the music world, that's what we do. We hire a teacher, a lesson teacher. We
Yep.
hire a school to give us some education, some tools about, I don't want to call them tools, maybe I would just call it like facts or musical information that all
Mhm.
all put together makes, if you read it all and take the test, you get a piece of paper at the end of it. But the biggest part of that educational process is usually hiring a teacher. Like that's really why people pick a school. And but we never say that we hired them. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. It is interesting because that's really what you're doing when you're going to school, study with somebody.
Yeah. And so like I think what really happens is instead of coming at it with that point of view of I'm hiring somebody, like you're not. See, I didn't realize I had a philosophy back then when I was entering college. I didn't. If I would have realized what I was doing, I might have been able to hold on to the philosophy, right? But I
Mhm.
went into U of I and I was still a boss. Like, put me in the top band. That's where I want to be. Put me here. I'm definitely going to do this. I'm definitely going to do that. Oh, I realized the teacher wasn't really doing it for me, so I transferred. Like that right there was boss behavior. I was like, this isn't working for me.
Mhm.
I didn't realize it at the time, but I was like, I hired you. You're not doing the job I want, so I'm leaving. But then for
Yeah.
some reason, I get in front of someone who has a big title and he had a big job at Indiana and he's kind of famous in the horn world and stuff like that. And I checked boss at the door
Yep.
and I put all my future, my future vision for myself as a musician for a career on a silver platter and handed it over to him and gave away all my power and my boss
Yep.
behavior.
Yep.
And so many people do that.
Yep.
I know because I've
It's
heard the
true.
stories,
Oh yeah, it's true. Happens all the time,
Yeah.
especially music school.
Hmm.
Yep.
And
Very,
so,
very common.
yeah. And so that was like the beginning of the decline. But there's still moments of boss. Like I was telling you, like I could trace back when boss came back. Like, when I was like, oh, I'm going and I'm going to take the civic audition. I don't care if I've never studied in Chicago. That's what I'm doing. I'm taking the civic audition. I'm going to
Right.
go, I'm going to take a year off, even though everyone around me is going straight to grad school. I don't know if this is really what I want. So I'm taking a year off. So I did that. And then I realized I did want to go to school, but that wasn't necessarily boss. That was, gee, I need to buy more time because what I'm doing right now sucks. So I kind of
Yep.
did that. And then there was some more boss mixed in there because same thing with teachers and switching and everything. And so boss came back for a little while. And then once I got kind of rooted in the whole, like what I had created essentially, which was I was playing assistant, I was doing a lot of assistant work. I ultimately took a job that I was an assistant. That's what I did.
Mhm.
Boss just like gradually started sleeping more during the year and actually went into full hibernation by the time, you know, you and I got
Yeah.
got back in touch. So that's like the story of my boss.
Yep.
And I really think that like if everyone from an early age knew what the boss was actually, and then actually were able to approach hiring a teacher just with that word, just with that word hire,
Yeah.
you know?
Hiring. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's how it is in the business world. You hire people.
Yeah. And why can't we act like business people from the minute we decide what our education's going to be? I don't know why everyone thinks they have to hand over their power when it's time to go to college. I don't know.
I don't, I've never really understood why, especially, obviously I was a classical musician at one time, but it's been a while. So I don't really understand why everybody is so, I guess, sensitive about what people think of you,
Hmm.
what people think of your playing. There's so much concern for judgment. I've
Yeah,
never seen, I've never truly have never seen so much concern for judgment and what other people think as I've seen in this arena.
I know.
I've never seen anything like this seriously, in all of my years of being in the business world, never
Hmm.
seen anything like this.
Yeah. I think a big part of it is because it's so rooted in auditioning, maybe.
Yeah, that could be.
You know,
That could
because
be.
you literally have to audition for any opportunity that you ever get. Like you remember, I mean, youth orchestra, you had to audition when you got into Interlochen.
Yeah, but it's funny. Yeah, it's true, but it's funny. I really would love to know why classical musicians turned into walking apologies.
Oh, that totally happened. You're so right about that.
I don't understand. Like, I get the auditioning part. I get that you have to, audition in order to get into things. But where did the apologizing start happening?
I know.
I don't get it. That's the thing that's always baffled me.
Yep.
Why do you have to be a walking apology in order to be considered a great player? Why do you have to be a walking apology in order to be worthy of whatever,
I know.
worthy of anything, a job, a title, a position, whatever.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't understand it.
I know.
I
I
really
know.
don't understand it.
Well,
Um,
you know
to
how I
me,
described like the how the boss just the boss was there and then like just over time started going on vacation for longer periods of time, you know? And I think it turns into a condition, maybe,
I'm sure it does.
you know,
Yep.
to where you're just like, boss is gone, and now what's replaced that is apologizing and not taking ownership of successes, you
Hmm.
know? It's like I mentioned this in Classical Cats the other night. I mean, last night actually, because I'd been watching comedians in cars getting coffee with Jerry Seinfeld on Netflix.
Oh
I love
yeah,
those
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
little 15-minute quick shows, and he's so funny. And he was talking to another comedian. Shoot, what's his name? Anyway, he's talking to him, and the other guy goes, "Aren't we lucky? Aren't we lucky to do whatever we want?" He goes, "No." I thought of you too. I really thought of you. He goes, "No, we're not lucky. We made that happen."
Yep.
And he goes, "Well, I mean, we're doing what we want, and that's hard to do." He goes, "You had a job and you quit to do something else. You did that." And
Yep.
he was like, "Oh, yeah, you're right, I guess." I mean,
Yep.
it was so funny because Jerry really did have a philosophy about it. He was just like, "Screw that."
Yep.
And then of course
Yep.
he laughed about it. He's like, "When do I get to take responsibility, or when do I take to get credit?" He goes, "When do I get to take the credit
Yeah.
finally for what I've created?"
That's a really good point, is when do you get to take the credit? And my question for classical musicians is, when will you take the credit?
Yeah. Yeah.
When will you? You
Yeah.
know?
Cuz everyone's afraid to say like, look what I did." Cuz then, "Oh, you're
Hmm.
bragging." You know.
Yeah.
Who cares if you're bragging?
Who cares if you're bragging? So what?
Yeah.
You did it.
Uh-huh.
You should be able to say you did something. It
I
doesn't mean you're a bad person.
I know, right? It's like, why did everyone get so sensitive? Like, so what if you say I did that and then someone goes, oh, you're bragging? Who cares?
Yep. Yep. I remember years ago I was actually seeing a guy. I went out on 3 dates with him and that was it. But I told him, we were talking about our past, and I told him I was a musician, blah blah blah, and I told him I played with Chicago Symphony when I was 16, and um, I told him what it was. I told him it was a competition, blah blah blah. I was just talking about it. I said, and I played, and it was great. It was one of the best experiences I ever had. And then in a later conversation, you know what he said to me? He goes, "So, I just didn't really care for the way you told that story." Did I tell
Get
you this?
out. I
No, no,
think,
not
but tell
kidding.
me the story again. Oh my God.
So he's like, I didn't really care for the way you told that story. And I said, why? That's what happened. And he said, well, I just really think that, what you should have said about it is that you were fortunate to be able to play with the Chicago Symphony.
You've got to be kidding me. He said
And
that to
he said
you?
this. No, I swear to God, he said it. And I said, why should I say that? I earned it.
Yeah.
I earned that. I wasn't fortunate. I earned it. What are you talking about? You
Right.
know? And he was really put off.
Oh,
He was, and
jeez.
of course, I was doubly put off because don't tell me I was fortunate. I wasn't fortunate. I worked for that.
No kidding.
Don't tell me I was fortunate. I'm very clear that I earned that.
Yeah. You worked
And
your
I'm
butt
very
off for
clear.
that.
Yeah, and I'm very clear I deserved it, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I totally deserved it. I mean, I did everything I needed to do to win that thing. I did. And so it just, I mean, but this is society,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. So it's not just in the music world, it's in society.
It's a society.
Yeah.
But I just see it's extremely prevalent in music world.
Yes, it is. It
Like
is.
overly so, like in other words, it's exaggerated. It's
Yeah.
exaggerated in the music world.
Yeah. I mean, oh yeah, big time. I've never heard a musician say, you know who I hired to coach me on these excerpts? You know who I
Hmm.
hired?
Yeah.
Because when you quote unquote hire, when you go and play excerpts for somebody, you're not going in there with a philosophy on how you think the excerpts go at all.
Nope. Right.
You're going in there to say, please tell me how to play these so that
That's
I
right.
can do it right for getting into the orchestra I want to do.
That's right.
And especially you'll go and play for people who are in that orchestra, so you make sure you do it how they think it goes,
Hmm.
you know.
Yep.
So like essentially having a philosophy in classical music is really not ideal. In
Yeah.
like in your playing, if you're going to be in an orchestra,
Yep.
you know.
Yep. I suppose that's true, but I don't know how you can win a job without one.
Right. I guess what I mean, like, you can't create your own musical philosophy about something, but you can definitely have a philosophy about something. And then that would help you get an audition or win one, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
mean, I can't imagine winning a job without one. I just can't imagine it.
right, you have to have a philosophy about something, like something about where you stand on. And I think that would come through in your playing. Maybe you're not making up some completely different thing of how the thing goes. Obviously,
Hmm.
that's not going to work for anybody, but like you know, being a boss.
Yep.
I know that I can be this person in this position or whatever. But and that's how like that if you look into who you admire the most in the classical world, that is actually those are the people. The ones that have philosophies. I mean, look at Leonard Bernstein. Look
Hmm.
at look at oh, here's a good example. Look at Yu Zhao Wang. I might
Oh
be
yeah.
saying her name wrong. Yu Zhao Wang. She could give a fuck if people think she's wearing too short of a skirt or too high of heels,
Yeah.
you know?
True.
And she
True.
plays the shit out of it.
Yeah.
So that's
I
great.
actually don't know how she plays with those shoes, to be honest with you.
Oh, God, I don't either.
I really don't. I don't know how she does it. I think she must practice with them.
Yeah.
She has to, because I don't know how that would even be. Seriously.
It doesn't look comfortable to me.
No, 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 no. I mean, they just look too tall.
Yeah.
It looks really, yeah. I mean, you got to have some serious control.
Yeah, but it's clear she has a philosophy about it because people are always commenting about it. Like, oh, can you believe she's doing that? Can you
Hmm.
believe she has the audacity to wear such a short dress?
Yep.
This is classical music, for God's sakes.
Right. Exactly. Yep. And of course, she's making fistfuls of money,
Yeah.
and she's very popular. So
Yep.
I think she doesn't mind making a ruckus.
No, I know. But
Yeah.
pretty much everyone who's like world famous in the classical music world, it's clear they have a really strong philosophy about what they're doing, why they do it, who
Yep.
they are,
Yep.
you know.
And seriously, if you can't, I mean, I told this to Tracy at the beginning of the year. If you can't, if I can't put you in a room in 3 hours with no, like basically no preparation, 3 hours, like you basically have an hour to put the outline together, and then the other 2 hours to put on your outfit. Get yourself all gussied up and get your butt in the car and drive. That's
Hmm.
pretty much all you've got. If you can't stand up in a room for 2 hours and speak about something with no preparation other than maybe an outline, a chicken scratched outline, then you don't have one.
Yep.
You
Yep.
just don't.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that's a great thing to think about because it pulls it together for you. Like if you're sitting there going, I just don't know if I have a philosophy or I don't know how we would get
Hmm.
one. That's the question you ask yourself, you know?
Yep,
So it's
totally.
great. You know, someone else who I know has a really great philosophy on their approach. Again, I'm bringing up Netflix. Is I watched this Jim Carrey documentary, and this is when I had like, so we had that awesome conversation on January 2nd. I'm out like always going to remember the date of it, but we had that awesome conversation, and then I was a combination of several things were going on that week. I was filling up the challenge. I was taking on the Zen challenge
Right.
because I started that, and we talk about that in the Classical Cats group, and it's still going on. So if you're interested, if that sounds like something you'd want to do and you don't know what that is, join the Classical Cats group, and you can join it
Yeah,
if you
for
want.
sure. Join it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really great. And so I was doing that, and I was filling up the challenge, and then I watched this episode. We watched it over 2 nights because it was kind of long. It was like maybe close to 2 hours, so we split it up, and it's the documentary about Jim Carrey when he made that movie about Andy Kaufman,
Hmm.
and it's bizarre because part of it is that he really goes into in the interview. Part of it is in an interview, and then it's like a documentary showing them on set, showing what he did in situations. Essentially, he believes that he channeled Andy Kaufman for that movie.
Wow.
Yeah. And he feels like he wouldn't have been able to do it justice if he didn't, but he describes it in the movie, and it was I actually don't really have a doubt that that's what happened. But besides that part, he was talking about just the start of his career and what he wanted to do, and he was always very clear that that's what he wanted to do. He always knew he wanted to do comedy, and he knew it from a very early age. And so here I am. I had this conversation with you. I'm doing this work that's kind of hard, reaching out to people, asking them if they want to do something they've never heard of. That's kind of hard work, having conversations with somebody. Do you want to join us for a 4-day thing? I know you've never heard of it. You may have tried to do it before, but you ran out of time. Like just individual conversations with people. So doing that, and then I watched this thing, and he said that he was realizing what he needed to figure out for for himself as his career. He wanted to figure out what he said what they want. He meant the audience. What do they want?
Hmm.
And at a certain point, he said he's telling the story, and he goes, "I'm laying in bed, and I know what I want. Like I know what I want. I want to be successful. I want to have a great career in comedy. I want to be in movies, but what do they want?" And he kept saying over and over, "What do they want? What do they want?" And he wouldn't stop asking himself that question for like days and days and days and days. And then one night, in the middle of the night, he woke up like out of a deep sleep. He just woke up and sat up in bed, and he said, They want to be free from concern. And
Hmm.
from that moment on, he said, I will be free from concern for them. And that's when he said that, and it was almost like that's when his philosophy became solidified, because he said that's the exact moment that his career started taking off.
And so when you say that he decided to be free from concern for them, what do you mean by that? Getting on stage and being free from concern?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think part, I mean, he doesn't really explain it, but he goes on to say that the next part of the story is that the next time he went on stage, he said, how are you guys doing tonight? Well, alrighty then. Like, he did that alrighty then thing that ended up being
Hmm.
the guy on The Mask.
Yep.
And he asked them how they were doing, and without waiting for their response, he said, alrighty then, with that weird thing that ended up
Hmm.
becoming like a total. I mean, everyone knows that phrase from him
Hmm.
in that movie.
From him, yep. Everybody
Hmm.
knows. Yep, it's true.
So, and so then he started really kind of living from that place, and he started describing that he would go and do these stand-up routines where he was not prepared at all in the least, but just going to be that person, that free from concern person, to see
Hmm.
what could happen on the stage, like just pushing all limits, like just being like, for them, whatever he could do to get a laugh, to get them to just let go and be free from concern. Like, that was his main thing. And like within the same couple of years, he got like these three feature films. It was like The Pet Detective and The Mask and Dumb and Dumber. Those were his, like, that was his trifecta, and he made like $10 million in like three
Okay.
years. Yeah. And then he was
Wow.
like, then he was a star.
Yep.
And it all came from going, what do they want?
Yep.
And so I
A,
realized, like, wow, this is,
a question classical musicians should be asking about their audience, frankly.
yeah, because classical musicians don't.
Nope. They only think about what they want usually.
Yeah, I do. I know that because I remember, I remember at one point I was just talking about the music with musicians and thinking, I mean, this thought came into my head. Why do we do this because we love it? Like, really? Because we're very concerned about like the articulation of this, that, and the other. And yeah, sure, that stuff is important when you're rehearsing it, but I think a lot of times musicians just get obsessed with the wrong things,
I agree.
to the point
Yep.
where the next thing you know, no one's thought about the audience and what they want at all.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Actually, you had that epiphany about your horn playing, didn't you? Recently?
yeah.
Didn't you have an epiphany about what was it again? Something about you realized what that for your horn playing you what was it? You know what I'm talking about?
Was it when I improvised for the first time?
No, I
Cuz
think
that
it was
was
no, I don't think it was then. I think it was you said something about how your whole focus when you were learning horn was about playing with w-
effortless.
effortless.
Yes.
That epiphany, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. I realized that I had made that I decided at a certain point that I really wanted to sound and feel effortless. Like the sound that was coming out of my horn sounded beautiful and effortless, and that actually it was more effortless because I knew that the amount of effort I was putting in to play the high range stuff, it was wrong. I just felt that that was wrong. Because if it's supposed to feel like that, it can't be right. So I
Mhm.
spent so many years just working on that. Like, that was my main goal. And that took up everything. That's what I thought was the key, and honestly I achieved it. It took a long time. It really, really did. And I remember thinking at a certain point, wow, like, I can finally say I feel comfortable playing in the high range, and I'm now 39 or something. Like, geez, whatever. That's late blooming. But then I feel like, wow, that's good because now I feel like I can really do anything on the horn. And now what? No one
Yep.
cares.
Yep.
Literally no one cares. And so
True.
that was when I really kind of hit a wall with my career because I realized, wow, it doesn't even matter how beautiful I I do a slur or a phrase like because if I do that and it's so great, the person next to me will hear it.
Yeah. Yep.
Period. Like there's
Period.
nothing after that.
Yeah. It's true. It's very, very true.
And that's when I was just like, what else is there? Geez, what else is
Mm-hmm.
there? You know?
Yep. What else is there?
Yeah.
Yep. There's so much more.
Yeah.
So much more.
Yeah. So yeah, I was glad that I reached that pinnacle, I suppose, in my playing, but that can't be all there is.
Mm-hmm.
Just can't be.
Yep. There's
And
so much more.
right, and so and now that I'm viewing the parade from over the fence instead of through the knothole, the knothole is I can become an effortless, beautiful horn player with amazingly smooth slurs that sound so clean that I can't even believe I can do it.
Yep.
And then who cares is the next word after that. And then above the fence is now that I have that, what now? There's so much more to learn.
Yep.
And that's what I've realized like through especially through the work with you and getting to this point where like wow, no, I really do have a philosophy on things and I now my only job is to really pull it all together.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that my a big part of my philosophy is getting your boss back. And the way that you get your boss back is not just by wishing that it would come back because you've filled in all your your bags, your baggage
Mm-hmm.
full of a bunch of crap and it needs to be unpacked and you can't do it by yourself. And so that's the work that you and I have been doing for 2 years and coming from that work is what's been created in the challenges and the courses and
Yep.
it's so revolutionary that people do the challenges actually and they go, "Oh my god, I saw so much. Oh my god, I can't even believe this. I took a course last semester at this place or that place and it was supposed to be about entrepreneurship and they didn't talk about anything about this and I can't believe how much I saw in 4 days." Like these are all the comments we're getting and I'm like, "Wait till you see the
Mm-hmm.
course, dude. You have
Yeah.
no idea."
Yeah, well, and see, and the thing that's happening though that we're noticing from challenges is, once you give people an opportunity to go further with it, a lot of times they say no because the only thing they know
Mhm.
is, well, I'm just going to go back to my instrument. I'm just going to go practice more. I'm just going to go do more of what I've already been doing.
Yeah.
That's how they approach it. And the problem is that's not going to work.
Right. It hasn't worked up until now,
It hasn't
so
worked out because if it worked, it would have changed things. It didn't do it.
mhm.
It didn't change anything for you,
Right. Right.
you know. And if
Right.
it did, it changed it over time,
It's sort of
like
like
a
that
long.
analogy. Like, why doesn't the digital clock work? Um, I don't. Well, it's probably because it's not, it's not up to date, or it's this or that. Well, no. Well, those reasons don't work. Flip it over. There's no battery in it. Oh, put a battery in it. Now it works. So now that's the reason, and it
Hmm.
worked. But if you always said that the reason was something other than that it doesn't have a battery in it, those reasons aren't going to make the clock work.
That's right. Exactly. That's a really good example, actually.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what I feel about personal development, or whatever you want to call it. Any kind of like
Yeah.
development
It's really
for,
developing yourself. Yeah. I mean, it's
yeah,
personal development. It's developing yourself, and it's outside of your instrument.
it is. And
It's entirely outside of your instrument. Yep.
I started searching for this before, but like you said, nothing ever works because you read a book and it doesn't really change your it gives you ideas, but it doesn't actually change your stance on where you
Yep.
are or like I don't know how to describe it necessarily. Maybe you do better than I do, but like what is it that like a book oftentimes like like let's say, for example, I read Eckhart Tolle, right? And for a little while, I was like, yes, this is it. It's the ego. The ego is the problem, and blah, 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 and this and that and the other. And for a little
Hmm.
while, you start to have like sort of an enlightened kind of view, but then it fades
Well,
away. It
and
doesn't,
there is some truth to that, certainly. There is some
yeah.
truth to that.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying I didn't like his books. They're great and everything, but it's not doesn't like provide you with lasting change.
Well, do you know why it doesn't provide you with lasting change?
No.
Because it didn't change what you see.
Okay. Like
So
in
the
my own
reason
life, do you mean?
why, say again,
Do you mean like in my own life or just in general?
just what you see. So, you have a point of view. So you look in the world and there's a way that you see things.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is not what I always say this, the problem that you think is the problem is not the problem. The
Right.
problem is how you're looking at the problem.
Right.
So because one person, I think I've said this on other podcasts, one person can see $5,000 in a bank account and think that's a lot of money.
Mm.
Another person will see $5,000 in a bank account and think it's nothing. They think they're broke.
Oh my gosh. You know what I just realized?
But
Because remember how I was just telling you before we started recording that I was crying over that book last night?
yeah,
This is what it is. It's
what do you
like
mean?
because that's the end of the book. I posted on my Facebook profile I was reading a book to my daughter, and this is what happens. It was the shift in the way that you see it.
It's the way you see it.
And it
The
was
problem you have is not the problem. It is how you're looking at the problem.
mm-hmm,
What
mm-hmm.
you see is so the reason why books don't help you, and this is for everyone. If you're listening to this podcast, it's important you understand. The reason why books don't help you is because they don't change what you see.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't change what you see, you will never change what you do, and you will never change what you have.
Right.
Because what you see determines what you do, determines what you have.
What you see determines what you do, determines what you have. Yes.
That's right. So
Yes.
what you see gives you what you do. So
Mm-hmm.
if you see a certain thing, you're going to act a certain way around it. But
Right.
if you see that in a different way, you're going to do something different. You're going to have a different result every time.
Right.
Every time. But if you can't see other than how you're seeing now, you will not nothing will change for you. That's why people's
Absolutely.
lives don't actually change
Mm-hmm.
because they only see one way. You have to be able to see another way in order, and that's the work that we do here. I actually force you to see another way, and I don't force it like it's an inquiry, 100%. But the more inquiry I do with you, the more you see.
Right, and that's the key. The key isn't that someone shows you something and says, "This is the way I want you to see it."
That's right. I don't want you
It's,
to see it anyway. I want you to see what you see through an inquiry.
and
But
that's
I
the
want you to
key.
see differently. Yeah.
You
You have to
know,
see, and you will see differently. Like, I don't care what you see, but it has to be different than you're seeing now. Otherwise, you won't change.
totally. I'm over here like nodding my head off right now. No, this is why. This is exactly why. If you have a family member or a friend or a boyfriend or a husband who you've told something to a million times, and
Yep.
they don't hear it, and then they hear it on like the news or they hear it
Yep.
from an article or a book they read, and they go, "Oh
Yep.
my God, do you know that?" Da 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 da. And I'm like, "Yeah, I only told you that a million times."
Yeah, I told you that 50 times in the last month,
Yeah.
but they didn't hear you.
Mm-hmm. Because they
They
had to
didn't
see it
hear you.
for themselves and
They
in
have to
whatever
see,
way
they
works.
have to, that's right. They had to
Mm-hmm.
see it from another view, in another way, presented differently than you were presenting it. And so
Mm.
now they could see it.
Yeah.
That's it. So the problem you're having, whatever the problems are that you have nothing to do with it's not actually a problem. It's only a problem because of how you're looking at it.
Exactly.
That's it. It's that simple. And most books, most authors, most people have no idea. They are not trained in helping you see another way.
Mm-hmm.
They're not trained in that. And I am trained in that.
I
That's what
know.
I've been trained. That's what I've been trained in, like for years,
Yeah.
years and years and years. That's all the training I've done. And so, yeah, so that's why this is so different from anything else. And that's why, like I understand that how they see, like some of the people in the challenge, how they see it as, well, you know, I'm just going to keep doing because it's very safe to stay seeing the way you've been seeing and doing what you've been doing. It's very safe.
Mm-hmm.
It's very safe to continue doing that.
Totally.
It's not going to change anything.
Right.
It's not going to change anything, but it's safe. It's what you know. So that's going to be the biggest thing for classical musicians to confront is that the way they've been doing things, the reason why classical music doesn't evolve, and it's because they keep doing things the same way. That's because they keep seeing things the same way.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. How they're seeing it is the problem.
100%.
That's it. I mean, it's really that simple. And so that's what the books that you read all that time didn't provide for you.
Right. Yeah.
That's the Yeah, because and by the way, in order to get a human being to see something different, you have to do it through inquiry. You know why? Because if you tell somebody how something is, they just go, "No, it isn't,"
Right. Because I know
because
it's
they
this
can't
way.
see that.
Right.
Yeah, because I see this. You can't tell someone how it is. You have to inquire until they can see another way, and then they might be open to it could be another way. But you can't tell them how it is because the minute you tell them, they'll resist. I don't
Mm-hmm.
see that, so you're wrong. That's why you can't tell someone how it is or how it should be. Nobody will accept that.
Yeah.
That's why it doesn't work.
Exactly. That's why our audience and impact challenge isn't sitting you down and saying, well, first you have to start posting to Facebook this many times a day and this
That's right.
many, that's not what we do.
That's right. We can't because if I told you that, you would go, "Well, I see so and so," like because you have another view of that.
Right.
So I can't if I can give you all kinds of strategies about how you should do this, that, or the other, but you're not going to listen to me because your view says otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Because if your view said what the way I suggested it, you would have already been doing it,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And so this is the whole thing is what you see. The entire thing is what you see.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't see anything else, you have a problem.
Yep.
If you can't see anything else, you have a problem. You'll always have a problem. And so, yeah, it's a really interesting thing. It's a very interesting. It's the very very few people actually know how to train this. By the way, there are some big names who know how to train it. Nobody knows that this is actually what they're doing. This is the kind of training that they do.
Mm-hmm.
But and by the way, but it's very few.
Right.
We're talking a handful
Right. Which is
of
why
people.
I'd never heard of it until I started talking to you.
That's right. Yeah, because very few people do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else just tells you what to see,
Yeah.
which doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work. Somebody else telling you what to see does not work
Right.
because you can only see what you see.
Exactly.
You can only see from the pair of eyes you have. It's just like the $5,000 example. If what you see is $5,000 is no money at all, and you think you're broke, I can't change that for you by telling you $5,000 is a lot of money.
Exactly.
I can't change that for you because who you are is it's not. It's I'm broke.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter that I said that you're not broke and $5,000 is a lot of money and it's worth so much and look at what you can do with it and blah 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 blah. That doesn't change anything.
Totally.
See
Yeah.
that? It doesn't change. It's the same exact principle. The
Yeah.
same principle goes with everything, and including evolving classical music. I
Yep.
mean, look, I can tell you all day long that we need to evolve classical, la, 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 la. But unless I put you through an inquiry so you can see something other than you're saying now, you're not going to change a thing you do. Not a thing.
Oh, 100%. Like actually, I'm telling you, I mean, talk about starting something before you know what it's going to look like. I started crushing classical before I knew this,
Mhm.
essentially. And so, like, here I'm going, people can start careers in classical music, but gee, I don't know what that looks like. I don't even know what it looks like for me yet, but I'm still going to keep trucking along at this. And I'm glad I did because now I have a much clearer view of it, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But like, that's the thing. Like I can't say to you, hey, you should start your own career. And if you don't know, if you haven't been involved in this conversation or gone through these kind of inquiries at all, you're gonna look at me like, are you insane? You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
I don't see it. Give me an
Yep.
example, And if I
Yep.
give you an example, it still won't be right. I mean,
Mhm.
I've experienced it with people. What do you mean? What do you think I should do? Well, you could do this, this, and this. Oh,
Mhm.
well, then they try to figure out why that's not true. They don't even have to figure it out. They just tell you right away. Oh, that's not going to work because of this. And that's
Yep.
not going to work because of this. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because that works. Even though I'm
Yep.
depressed, and even though I don't really like this lifestyle, and even though I don't see myself doing this for 10 or 15 more years, I can't bear it.
Mhm.
I've had this conversation numerous times,
I believe that. Yeah.
you know.
Mhm. Yep. I believe that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But it
So
doesn't
yeah,
soak in if I say, but look, you could do this. I mean,
right.
it'd be
I
so
mean,
great. I
right.
mean,
I
look, it's
mean,
right in front of your face. It's like right in front of your face that you could do this.
that's the trouble with ideas is that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, you can give people ideas and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with ideas,
Right.
um, but somebody actually executing an idea is not, if it didn't come from them, they're not going to execute on it. They're just not going to do it.
Right. Exactly.
They're not because it's not something they saw.
Uh-huh.
It's all what you see. You need to just everyone you need to understand. It's all about what you see,
Yeah.
and what you see determines what you do, determines what you have always. And people go, oh yeah, so because people go, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and getting the same result. No, insanity is continuing to think that if you read a book that somehow that's going to change your life. No, because if the book doesn't change your view, it's not going to change your life.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
A book telling you what to do doesn't change your view.
Right. And I can prove it with how many books are on my shelf,
Hmm.
you know,
Yep.
because you read it and you get some ideas and then you think about it for a while and then it fades because you didn't change your view. I didn't change my view
That's
because
right.
of that.
You didn't change your view.
And then I
Yep.
find another book that sounds really interesting and I check it out.
Yep. And believe it or not, changing your view is not an easy thing to do.
No.
I want you to get, like, you think, oh, well, I can just take on another point of view. No, actually, you can't. That it's not that simple. You actually have to be guided through the process of taking on another point of view. This is something. This like somebody needs to be trained to do this for you because it's that hard.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yep.
is not. It is, and Tracy, you know this. I mean, it is simply not easy for you to take on. It's just not. It is
No.
not. There's nothing easy about it, and there's nothing easy about being the person who does it for you, who actually helps you get there. It's not easy to be that person. I mean, I'm trained in it, so I know how to do it, and I'm very confident in my ability to do it. But you should know that it is not easy by it. It's not something you can do by yourself.
Mm-mm.
It's not.
No, it's not easy. I mean,
It's
over the
not.
course of the last 2 years, how many times have I cried? How many
Yeah.
times have we had really hard conversations? How many times have I remember one time in particular, I was sitting at my computer texting with you, and you were coaching me over texting, and I was crying and like I wanted to throw the computer out the window. It's like
Yeah.
it was tough. It was really
Yeah.
tough. Part of it, I think, one of the biggest ones was when I was confronted with actually having a philosophy, maybe when I wasn't quite ready to have one.
Yeah.
That's what I
Probably.
saw. I saw what it was like. I witnessed somebody who had a clear one. And it was the first time I saw what that was,
Hmm.
you know.
And you always know when you're in the presence of somebody who has one.
Yeah. And I saw that and I was like, wow, how did he do that?
Hmm.
He got what he wanted and it happened because he said it was going to happen. And I was like really blown away by that. And that's when kind of like stuff started swirling around.
Hmm.
That's like when the foundation crumbled.
Yep.
That was like the moment. And actually that was a long time ago, Eileen. That was like I want to say that was summer of 2016.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's probably about right.
Or fall. It was fall. Yeah, it was fall.
Fall.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, and you've come a long way, certainly.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
come a long way. I mean, and by the way, so the first step is for you to be able to change your point of view. You know what the second step is?
What?
For you to be able to assume the view of anyone.
Okay.
So for you to be able to have a conversation with somebody and see from their view.
Mm.
That's the next level, which is actually what you're learning now.
Right. Right.
You
Mhm.
actually know that, right? You know you're learning that now, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's, by the way, that's why I can do inquiry for people, because I can see from your view.
Uh-huh.
That's why I can do it. So it's the next level of what, once you're able to change your point of view, and see from another view, and you can do that easily, like effortlessly,
Yeah.
masterfully. Once you can do that, then the next level is being able to see from anyone's view.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone, truly anyone, even people you don't like.
Yeah.
Really, that's the next level. So, but the first level is hard enough to get to. I mean, if people actually get to that level, that first level in their lifetime, it's a miracle.
Right.
It's that hard. It's that challenging to get to see from another view.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I mean, and by the way, if, I mean, it's certainly philosophy has a lot to do with this, because even if you have a philosophy, you can still see from someone else's view.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to be able to see from somebody else's view.
Yeah, and in a way, Jim Carrey did that, right? Because he saw what they wanted
Mm-hmm.
so clearly
Yep.
that he was so certain about it that he
Yep.
launched his career like so fast
Yeah.
after that.
Well, and that's a really good example of somebody being able to assume another viewpoint and what's possible when you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a living example of somebody who changed their life just by taking on another point of view.
Yeah.
Because you literally can do a 360 or a 180, excuse me. You can do a 180 in your life by seeing another view. You can do a 180
Yeah. And what was cool was
instant.
that he wasn't giving up on that. Like he kept asking it over and over and he wasn't sure, but
Hmm.
he wouldn't stop asking himself that question.
Yep,
So,
yep.
yeah,
It's cool.
this is incredible stuff. Wow.
Hmm. It is. So anyway, if you're wondering what the training is about or the kind of stuff we do here, that's what it is. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why, like we're not here to give you answers. We're actually here to change your viewpoint, change your point of view so that you can see
Yeah.
something different than you're seeing now. Because until you can see differently, you won't do differently, and then you won't have anything different.
Mm-hmm.
That includes a career, that includes a family, a relationship,
Money.
health, money, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Any area of your life is impacted by what you see.
Yep.
And what you're seeing, so whatever problem you have, if you remember nothing from this conversation, remember this. The problem you have is not the problem. The problem is how you're looking at the problem, how you see the problem. That
Yeah.
is the problem.
Yep.
And until you can see it differently, it will forever be a problem.
Yeah. You hit the nail
That's
on the head.
it. It's that simple. And so I want to help you see differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trained to do that
Yeah, and it happens a lot
a
here.
lot.
Oh my God.
That's what we do. That's all we do here all
Yeah.
day long. That's
It's
all we
so
do.
cool. It's so cool when you see someone else. And that's the cool thing is that we do it in a situation like in a community when we're doing it, you know, so you can watch other people do they have these awesome like experiences where they see something different, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yep. Yep.
It's
And as a
great.
result, they start doing different things. It's pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah.
It's funny. You don't have to. This is what's interesting about it. You never have to tell anybody what to do. If you just help them see something different, they already know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's interesting about it. Everybody thinks they need to be told what to do. No, you don't. You need to be able to see something different, and then you will know what to do.
Yep.
You just need to believe me. You need to believe me about that, because that's just how it is. If you see differently, you will do differently, 100%. And it won't. Nobody will have to tell you what to do ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody will have to tell you what to do.
And that's the freedom that I saw from that conversation we had on January 2nd. Like
Hmm.
the freedom of knowing what to do. Like,
Yep,
because that's so much what stops you. I mean, really,
it is.
what do I do next?
Yep,
If you know, then there's like so much less worry. There's like none left.
yep,
You don't have to worry about anything because you know what
yep.
to do next. So
That's right.
it's,
You know what to do. And
yeah,
and if you can see, you will know.
right.
That's the important thing. If you can see, you will know.
Mm-hmm.
Because the view you have now tells you you don't know. You need another view in order to be able to know.
Yeah.
It is really, I know that sounds very simplistic, but it really is that simple.
Yep.
So Get on it.
Get on it. Come check it out. Join Classical Cats. We talk more about this. We'll talk more about this episode because we opened up a can of worms. We're kind of leaving it open right now at the end of
We
the
are.
episode, aren't we?
We are leaving it open, but that's all there is. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's all there is.
that's what we do here. I mean, if you want to know what we do here, that's what it is. It's very simple.
Yep.
And I look. You can go anywhere and get strategies and tips and tricks and all that stuff is fine. But that's just all added on to a point of view that you can't pierce.
Mm-hmm.
So all you're doing is, adding all kinds of information to, and you stuff you weren't doing already that doesn't align with how you see things. Because if it did, you'd already be doing it.
Yep.
That's the truth. If it aligned with how you see things already, you'd have already been doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It already would have happened.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you, like, none of those things are going to work. You will abandon them. You will start them and you will abandon them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people abandon their resolutions. That's why people abandon, because unless you can see differently, you will always do the same thing. Even if you're given a new set of tasks, you will eventually discontinue doing those things because you never saw differently.
Mm-hmm.
There's no mystery here. This is not mysterious. This is just true.
Yep.
And if you look at your life, you'll see that I'm right. Because anything you've started and then quit, it's because you didn't change your point of view. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, we want you to get involved in our work because we actually want you to have real change in your life. We actually want you to have what you want in your life, but you can't have it the way you've been trying to get it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have it that way. And you know that. So quit resisting it and get on the bus. Okay?
Get off the struggle bus and get on this bus.
That's right. Like, get off the struggle bus. Unless you like the struggle bus. If you want to sit on that bus, you can sit on that bus. But that bus is going nowhere.
Exactly.
And it's going to be a broke down in the middle of the road again.
Yep. Yep.
It's going to be a broke down. And you don't need that. You don't need to do that.
Exactly. I know. I'm really glad we had this episode, Eileen, because it's just, I want to keep driving home what we're doing here, because I think sometimes people get they just, if they don't know what we do here, they assume because there's nothing like it. So it's good that we clarified all this stuff today. It is
definitely, there is nothing like it. I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
That's 100% true, is there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
And you should be happy that there's nothing like it. All of you people, you should be happy that there's nothing like it, because this is a different kind of training that produces a different result than you've ever gotten before. Guaranteed.
Yeah, and I keep saying I can't even believe it's here. Like, how lucky is it that it's here in classical music right now? So anyway, yeah.
We just have to give it more exposure, is all.
Yeah, and that's
which is really one of our goals is this year, is just to give it a lot more exposure.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 100%. Actually, yeah.
So
for sure.
Good. Well, this was a great chat, and look forward to hearing anyone's comments, and feel free to comment in Classical Cats. Join the group for sure, because we have conversations like this on a pretty regular basis.
Absolutely. Join right then, and any way you can contact us.
Yep. Totally. Message, whatever.
Message, yeah. Awesome. All right.
Cool.
Thanks a lot, Eileen. I'll see you guys next time.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.